We have a very special guest in studio today. He is the play-by-play announcer for St. Louis City SC and St. Louis Ambush. And he's also an author with Reedy Press. The great and powerful Joey Zanaboni.
Hey, welcome, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for joining us.
Zach and Pat, thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and, Julie connecting us with yet another awesome guest.
Absolutely.
So, we were kind of talking before the show. You're a St. Louis guy, born and raised, just like us. And, man, you made this awesome book, this awesome kids book here. Let's tell us about it. What inspired you to make this?
Well, thank you for the kind words. It's called STL Sports for Kids, Forever Lauren the 314 through Reedy Press, and it's available right now, reedypress.com, or you can go to my social media, Joey_Zana. I was really motivated and inspired growing up in this city just by how many great athletes and moments and places that have helped to define my life and have meant so much to my family and my friends that I wanted to sit down and take a look at those and look at the history even before we were around and get a glimpse into the future as well. It's just something that's near and dear to my heart. And Reedy Press approached me about doing this, and I felt like it was really important because I think today for kids, reading is different. I'm not exactly 1,000 years old. I'm close, but not exactly there yet. But when we were kids, growing up in the 90s, the early 2000s, even then reading was approached differently. And I think kids had a different mentality about that. Studies are showing that kids are reading less, adults are reading less. And I wanted to do something to put something in front of, especially kids, but also older folks as well, that they could be interested in, that they could sit down with and learn and grow with. And combating that illiteracy is a real passion of mine. So to fuse that with my love of sports, that's how we got to STL Sports for Kids.
That's awesome. Well, I know what's going to be the next book that I'm working with my kids on reading, because the mine are 6 and 7, and they're working on their reading skills right now. So this will definitely be on the reading list as soon as they come back over.
Yeah, it's so important for parents to read to their kids, and I think that's what's so cool about a book like this is you can go back through your own life and track back through those moments of watching Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk and Mike Jones win the Super Bowl in 99, 2000, or Mark McGuire's home run chase in 98, and relive and share your own stories about that.
Yeah, being able to talk about that with the kids, and like, hey, this is what it was like when I was your age and what I was rooting for. And yeah, because my oldest son is a St. Louis sports fanatic. It stinks that we no longer have the greatest show on turf here, but he's obsessed with the Cardinals and the Blues, and he's been to a few of the city soccer games, and he's now getting into soccer more and more. He's half Bosnian, so it's kind of in his blood, the soccer a little bit. So, I'm excited to dive into this with him. Sure.
It's such a jumping off point because you can share your own stories and you can go into so much more detail. The book is 325 vignettes of about 50 to 75 words about people and places and moments and events in St. Louis sports history. So I think it's a great overview of 20 sports and what they've done for this area and some of my own personal recollections as well about them. And there's a lot that still can be told. So I think that it's a jumping off point. It's a point of exploration that's just going to open up that curiosity and hopefully get kids to go to a library and check out other books and say, you know what, I want to learn a little bit more about that. And that's been my goal, and just happy to be part of that journey for them.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because it's not, like you said, it's not a book you necessarily have to read cover to cover. You could just open it up to a random page and be like, oh, this looks interesting. Like what were this is what they wore. These were the uniforms back in 1950 or whatever it is. Like I just think that's so cool. Yeah, I can't wait to show my kids. My kids are a little younger, so but I'm sure they'll still like it.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of baseball and football and soccer, these are kind of the big sports in St. Louis. Yeah. But hey, if you're a fan of chess, we have quite a bit about that in there. If you're a fan of,
I just helped somebody that's the curator of the chess museum buy a house not too long ago. It's incredible.
There's a chess museum.
It really is. The St. Louis Chess Club and the World Chess Hall of Fame is down in the Central West End. I had a chance to go down there really for the first time. I've lived in St. Louis most of my life. I haven't had a chance to get down there, and I actually started coming back and had a chance to watch a Gary Kasparov match there, even though I don't really know that much about chess and I'm not all that good at it. But it was really cool to see that stuff and to see the World Chess Hall of Fame and Museum and just see the way that these great players, whether it's Gary or Magnus Carlsen come to this area
Mhm.
pretty regularly,
Mhm.
actually, and spend time and play matches down in the Central West End. It is about as rich of a place for sports, I think, as anywhere in the country, and that just proves it.
Absolutely. Now, talk about the process of writing this. I mean, obviously, you're going way back here with some of these stuffs. What kind of what did you do to research and get all this information that led you to diving into all this?
Yeah, I put together a little introduction. I said something like, with St. Louis sports, it's like the Mississippi River. The danger of flooding is always bigger than the danger of drought. We have so many stories and so much that we can put together and that we can explore. And so I really was feeling like someone who is pruning a garden or kind of taking fruit off the vine rather than necessarily growing something. I was going in and trying to select stories that I felt like encapsulated the city and encapsulated some of the things that we hold dear, the memories and the values and the points of interest. And I've got to shout out all the great people who helped me with the photographs, whether it was Reedy Press or KMX Sports, Carrie Ogle, Justin Barr, Derek Burgess, people who had personal photos or professional photos that they had through the years, and then they were willing to share them through the book. That really makes it something that is just elevated. It's a group effort. I supplied some of the words and put together, some of the ideas, but it was really their contributions, photography wise, that I think takes it that next level. And it was a process. It was a process of about 2 years from the time Reedy approached me with the book idea. Josh Stevens, who's the president of Reedy Press and the guy who makes it all go down there, had an idea about doing a timeline of sports and looking at sports history through the St. Louis lens. And from our initial conversation to now, it's about 2 years. And it was something that we grew with. We learned a lot about the process. We learned a lot about St. Louis sports. It changed a bit over time, but that was because we wanted to include as much as we could. And it really turned out quite well. So just shout out to Reedy and everybody who made it possible there. And it's just a privilege. It's a privilege to get connected with some people, whether it's the photographers, whether it's some professional athletes like Chris Pronger, who lives in this area and kind of looking at what this area has meant to someone like him. Obviously, he's included in the book. It really is pretty incredible. The people who have come here, have made their homes here, grew up here and stayed here, or went on to other things in other places. I mean, it's humbling, and I feel honored to tell the stories.
Yeah, especially being the sports town that we are. Like, I mean, fans. I mean, obviously, the last couple of years with the Cardinals has been a little rough, but I mean, we show up for our teams, and I mean, it's every because when I was in pro ball, one of the things that we'd play guys that would come down in the minor leagues, do on assignments and talking to them, and the cool thing too about it was like when I was playing, Walt Jocketty was the GM for the Reds. And so he brought a lot of former Cardinals over. It's like Bob Forsch was a pitching coach. Delino DeShields was one of my coaches for a handful of years. David Bell before he got called up and coach in the big leagues for the Cardinals and the Reds. So like all these guys were guys that I played for with the Red system. And you talk to any single one of them and then you're like, what's one of your favorite places to play? Every single one of them will say St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like, even as visitors, they're like, it's just an incredible place to play.
Yeah, and being part of the soccer team, I'll tell you, it's been something that's been both expected and eye opening to see the kind of fan support that we've gotten, and also just to hear the other teams and players and coaches and fans saying, "Oh, I love coming down to City Park, now Energizer Park, and just spending time at the stadium." We're here for each other, and I think that that's the biggest thing that I took out of this book is we show up for each other. We have a strong community, and it's important to get that message out to kids because, I mean, let's face it, sometimes in the national media or something like that, you might hear, oh, St. Louis doesn't do this or they don't have that. And then you go out and spend time with all the folks here and you realize, wow, we really care about each other. And I think that's the underlying message of the book is we're here for each other. When we show up for each other, great things happen.
Well, the one thing you mentioned too is, it's like the Mississippi flood, it's easy to flood, but never a drought. I mean, you could write multiple volumes of this book. And well, obviously it's always going to continue to evolve and get better and better, but we still have such a rich history within sports. So was there any going through all this, anything that stuck out to you in particular that was like, wow, this is really cool. This has to go in the book.
Yeah, I mean, from that first perspective, I mean, it's a document I have right now. It's like dozens of pages, things that were just left on the cutting room floor.
Oh, really?
And things that I couldn't quite squeeze them in, and maybe they show up in a little way in a certain section, stuff like that. And as a broadcaster, I really felt like I could have written an entire section, and at one point was kind of planning out a section just on the broadcasters that have come here and done things and been part of World Series broadcasts right from the get-go, and into the years of Jack Buck and obviously Joe Buck and Bob Costas and all these different people who have come through this area. And I was just fascinated to learn about some of their perspectives. I didn't know that Jack Buck was a bowling announcer. And
Really?
yeah, that was something that came up. He's in the baseball section. I have to put Jack in there, but he's in the bowling section as well, and actually had quite a bit of success doing bowling on ABC, I believe, and kind of got famous as a bowling announcer. I thought, okay, that's inspiring to me, because in that broadcast journey I've had, I mean, I've done everything from soccer and baseball to dog racing in Florida for a while. I was working at a casino in Pensacola in 2018 doing dog racing, and just those parallel tracks, it really is. It's fun to look at. I like that sort of wacky side of sports, or the off the beaten path stuff. And it's inspiring as well. It shows you that you can really have a lot of fun, and that those guys had a lot of fun in ways that we don't necessarily remember. We kind of say, oh, Jack Buck and Go Crazy Folks and the 80s Cardinals, or, before that. But there were a lot of twists and turns on his journey. And I think the other thing, just kind of staying on that I learned, my grandparents are from the Hill, and I spent so much time on the Hill as a kid. I loved looking at that stuff, and stuff from the 30s and 40s and 50s, especially from that time. I go to church at St. Ambrose often. It's a home parish for my family. One of the things that I learned was that Frank Borghi, who is the goalie on the U.S. men's soccer team that upset England at the World Cup in Brazil, he was in World War II, and Jack Buck was in World War II. And on D-Day, Jack Buck was part of the wave of soldiers that came onto the coast of France, and Jack was shot and was essentially left for dead. And Joe Buck's talked about this on a number of occasions. What I didn't know is that Frank Borghi was actually the medic who saved his life.
No kidding.
On the beach in France. Yeah.
Wow.
And 5 years later won the big game, the World Cup, the biggest upset in World Cup history over England. And of course, Jack Buck at about the same time became the announcer for the Cardinals, and Jack lived on the Hill, and Frank was from the Hill, and grew up there and stayed there and lived there his whole life. So just the way that you go a world away and you end up with somebody who's a neighbor, that's St. Louis to me. And that was something
for sure.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you always, the number one question is, where do you go in high school,
Yeah.
But it's like, people will think it's like, oh, it's how people judge or read about who you are as a person. No, it's like, how can I establish how we know each other? Like, cause it's not like, I'm not sitting here, oh, you went to that school because I'm going to judge who you are. I'm like, oh, do you know so-and-so? So that, like, it's like, everybody talks about 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like 1 degree of St. Louis, like there's probably one, like, well, Julie, we're one degree separated by Julie,
Yeah.
And there's so many cool things about that. And it's fun. Like, cause you can literally go anywhere. Oh, you're from St. Louis. Oh, what part? Oh, where'd you go to high school? Oh, do you know so-and-so? And you're immediately going to be connected to that person.
As I say in the introduction, it's about St. Louis. I'm legally obligated to mention high schools and Nelly.
Yeah,
so there's quite a bit about high schools, and there's quite a bit about Nelly in there. And that's absolutely right. I mean, it's a small community in many ways. It's still one of the bigger cities in America, and it is, I mean, quite a few people who live here. But it's funny how the lives intersect, and it really does show up.
Oh, well, Pat's brought it up on the show multiple times. The reason St. Louis isn't in the top 10 as far as like size of cities is because we have our city and our county separated.
Right.
And if they were combined, I think we'd be a top 10, like as far as population goes, right?
Yeah. I think we'd be in the last time I read, I think it would put us at like number 9 or something like that in the country.
Yeah. It really is a huge, physically and in terms of population, a huge area. So there's a ton of stories that come out of sports, and being able to try to cover that was kind of a challenge, because you start to get in and say, wow, different sports and different people in different places. We had the first Olympics. You start thinking about that and all the different stories, even out of just the Olympians that have come through here. here. I mean, it was overwhelming at times, but just the patience of Reedy and the fun of it sustained it. And I'm just really happy the way it turned out. And I hope it does justice to the community. I sat up a few nights and worried that maybe I was leaving something out or I wasn't approaching it, in exactly the way maybe people who are more familiar with certain sports would want it to be approached. But I did everything I could. And I just hope that people hold on to it and hold on to it as a point of pride.
No, absolutely. It looks amazing. Obviously haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but I am excited, especially just to go back and bring up the memories of, being for the Super Bowl. One of my best friends, I was over at his house. I'll never forget it. I was sitting at his house in the basement. We were playing pool in between at halftime, and then obviously playing quarter games and all that, and then watching it and eating pizza at his house. I'll never forget that. And then being at I forget the name of the bar. I've only been there once, but it's a South City bar when the Blues won the World Series or won the Stanley Cup. Like, I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I turned to somebody actually at the Super Bowl party a couple of days ago and said, there's only been, this was when it was 6-0 Seahawks. I said, there's only been one other Super Bowl where it's been 9-0 going into halftime. Which one was that? I said, I don't know. I said, it was 99 Rams against the Titans. You don't ever see, 3 field goals and the other team get held scoreless. But I mean, that was just the greatest game. I was actually, funny enough, my family lived in Nashville very briefly. I was born here in St. Louis and we moved to Nashville. So, of course, the Titans had just started in Nashville. They were kind of a sensation in Nashville, and they make the Super Bowl. And my sister in her kindergarten class was actually in school with Al Del Greco, who was the Titans kicker, his son, Bubba Del Greco. And I was like me and my brother were the only Rams fans in the entire school. So I remember thinking, oh boy, the Rams don't win this one. It's about a 29-1 ratio here in my class. Titans fans, it's gonna be a hard Monday to come in, and so I'll always hold on to that in that season. And it was just an incredible story, an incredible season, and you still meet, even though the team has been gone for 10 plus years now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, because I think it was 2015 was the last season, and they right after that. And yeah, it's just the people who still take inspiration from that. That's the kind of stuff I grew up with, and
it's just like the whole thing, like Kurt Warner's story and just the true underdog of it to the greatest show on turf. Like, I mean, it's just an incredible story.
It really was. I mean, the greatest underdog story. I mean, Tom Brady was, at least he was drafted, right?
Right.
And it just, I don't know that kids knew quite as much about it as just like our generation. It's, we kind of take it for granted. Like, okay, this guy came out of nowhere, and you had a kind of revolutionary way of looking at football. I remember was involved with teaching for about 5 years, and just kind of telling a class like, back in the day in about 99, 2000, throwing the ball on first down was not really common. It just wasn't. It wasn't something that they did as much. And thinking about the way that they changed the NFL, it's just so easy to take those things for granted in sports because things are always evolving, always changing. I just wanted to get it down on paper for them, what it meant to people.
I mean, and looking at the Blues' first Stanley Cup, or, like that story. Incredible. Bennington coming in at halfway through the season and putting on what he did, and then for them to go on and win the way they did in the last half of the season. It's I mean, sports here in St. Louis, I mean, it's like ingrained in the city, and it's everybody can bond over it. Everybody, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a favorite St. Louis sports team.
Yeah, when people count us out, it seems like that's when our teams are most likely to emerge. And being part of St. Louis City in the first year when we were picked to finish last, I think, in every preseason bowl, and the team came out and won the conference and became the first expansion team to do it. Yeah, I do think there's something about the city that allows these teams to do that, and that they kind of feel the hype and the energy and the momentum build behind them. And yeah, I just don't know that you see that a lot of other places, especially when you start to get down and into the details and say, wow, there's cities that have never won the World Series and they've never won a Super Bowl and they've never won, a major sports championship, and they keep coming out year after year. It's something that you just don't want to take for granted.
Wow. Well, you're an English teacher, or you teach English literature and narrate sports. How do those two worlds shape the way you understand storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, I think my reputation has become one of creative language, and I think there's more than a few people who maybe raise an eyebrow and what did that guy just say, kind of stuff. And, yeah, but that's the fun of it for me. I think I do think that sports announcing can devolve or just kind of settle in with cliches and old language about things that have happened. But for me, the most interesting part of it has always been what can you say in the moment that maybe hasn't been said before? And how can you take your own slant to it? How can you take your own angle to it? And how can you communicate a picture still that the people on the other side can understand? And, for me, it's really the thing that informs it the most outside of watching sports and paying attention to sports and trying to study different announcers is really reading. And it's really being with books and being with language and seeing how authors use language. And yeah, again, I just think it kind of comes back to I don't know that that's really seen in the same way. Reading's really seen in the same way as it was even 10, 15, 20 years ago. But I do think that they're connected in that I think when people listen to the radio more, and that was the primary way of getting sports, it's just like you have to be involved with the language. And once TV and now streaming and stuff comes along, which, hey, I love and I obviously participate in quite a bit. Yeah, the language itself and the understanding of how that molds our expectations, that molds our feelings, and that molds our reactions, it kind of takes a back seat. It does. And I think there's been a little bit sort of on the national side, people kind of wondering if there could be more to announcing. I think some of that's kind of the companies and the corporations have started to respond to that. I think we'll see more of being able to access local announcers and things like that for your streams of big games. We have that option on Apple TV with the MLS stuff, which is really cool. By the way, hit the button in the right-hand corner of your screen on February 21st at 1:30 p.m. when City opens up against Charlotte. But yeah, taking a different look and a different angle to it, I think that's the way the business is going. And I think that to me, it all comes back to that. It comes back to the way that words can shape or understand our reality, and just being able to combine those two passions and those two pieces of my life has been super important to me. And I hope people learn something. I hope people learn to take an enjoyment either way out of the words. And sports can be a vehicle for that. And yeah, it just means a lot. Means a lot. I hope it means a lot to the kids that I've taught through the years as well to maybe pick up the book and say, you know what, you can do that. You can write a book. You can be engaged with this stuff. And if that makes a little difference, then I think I've done a little something.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Now, how did you get into the whole, like, just the world of broadcasting in general? Because it's such a cool industry. There's, and we were talking about this before the show. There's very few positions out there. There's only so many major league teams, and so how did you kind of dip your toe into the pool here? And
yeah, fake it till you make it. That's that's really the biggest thing. I was a lit major. I was at Rockhurst University, home of the world's shortest football field. Haven't had a football team since 1949, so that's where that comes from. And we actually didn't even have a journalism major, so I was a little bit different from, some folks who obviously, journalism school and being from Missouri and going to Mizzou or going out of state and going to Syracuse or Northwestern or something like that. But I always had the interest in doing it, but I think I just was too worried. I was too nervous about, as you say, it is kind of a narrower field. And I just didn't really know where to start. I didn't really know what to do. And I'm also not a big opinionator. I'm not a big crossfire guy. And I think so many times we come to sports, it's like, here's somebody shouting an opinion and listening to daytime drive time talk. And I didn't really want to necessarily be involved with that. And I got out of college. I was spinning my wheels for about a year and just still had that itch to do it. And so I sat down on my bed one night. I had an iPhone, probably 4 or something like that. And yeah, I just made up a baseball game and commentated it and threw a couple of sound effects in the background to make it seem like I was actually at a game. And I sent it out to a bunch of summer college ball teams. I thought it was a ton. I probably only emailed like 10 teams. Looking back, I should have emailed like 500 teams. Thought it was a lot. One of them was in the Wichita area, Derby Twins. And the guy who ran it, Jeff Wells, huge Wichita State fan. And that was the year with Ron Baker and Fred Van Vliet and all those guys. They came to St. Louis, they were undefeated in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, so I had a chance to sit down with him. I always look back on that Shockers team, say,
What year was that?
I think it was about 2014, and just say that was kind of the reason he came to St. Louis. All right, thank God for good old Ron Baker, and it was really cool to just be able to talk with them. And I moved out to Wichita a couple months later, and just I remember sitting down the first game. I was like, all right, now I got to figure out if I can actually do this. And just started to learn it. Tried not to put too much pressure on being perfect in every way, because I felt like, all right, this is a chance to actually learn and do something new. I just think once people graduate school, it's harder to find those things. And just kind of kept the ball rolling and ended up in Mississippi at an HBCU for a few years, calling some games. It's actually featured on Last Chance U and season 2 on Netflix.
Oh, really?
It's really cool.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Coloma Community College, Clarksdale, Mississippi. It's actually called The Curse was the name of the episode. We were, the first year I was there, we played 128 games and we lost 118. And we broadcasted about 90% of the games. So it was something that I learned quite a bit about, but I cherish the experience probably more than any other experience I've ever had. I learned more, met more interesting people. It's the home of blues music, the world capital of blues music. So great culture and just unbelievable folks who, learned a little bit more about life than just kind of your standard broadcasting opportunity. And it's kind of bouncing around with some minor league baseball and independent baseball opportunities. 2019, I ended up with Johnson City, the Cardinals affiliate. It was great summer. Honestly, met some of the biggest Cardinal fans I've ever met. People who are going to every home game and driving every away game. And unfortunately, the pandemic shut the league down. So I kind of was at a little bit of a crossroads and ended up here in St. Louis and got the job with the St. Louis Ambush. Started to see, all right, soccer might be another avenue, a bigger avenue that I'm giving it credit for. So worked for a couple of years with the Ambush, and one night the ownership group for City actually came out for a crossover night, and Carolyn, who's the owner, Carolyn Kindle, she was out on the field before the game, and I was doing our pregame show. And I kind of was like, maybe I should go over and give her my card and say, hey, if you're looking for somebody in a year or two to do the broadcasting, let me know. I chickened out. And I went back up to the booth, and it was not a great game. We lost like 7-3, 7-2. And I kind of it was just one of those nights. It's like 10 degrees out, fired up the engine of the car. And first thing as soon as that engine turned on, I thought, I blew it. I'll never hear from her, and stayed with it though, and ended up connecting with some folks down there about a year later or so. And just got the job with City. And so I kind of put the brakes a little bit on baseball. I had been out in some minor league stuff, and started to do that. It's an 8-month-a-year thing, and just blessed to do it, honestly. And just being back with family and friends, that was really the biggest appeal to me. Love the team, but that was the biggest appeal. So that was kind of how I ended up back here and doing it for the hometown team.
It's awesome. So, I mean, what kind of preparation? I mean, because you got to know all the players and all that's like, what kind of preparation goes into that?
Yeah. Well, I did say fake it till you make it, right? That's what I got Dale for. Dale Shilley, our great color commentator and analyst. He really is the expert on soccer. Trust me. He knows more than I probably ever will. He's coached in this area for 40 years. So shout out first to Dale. But I think the number one thing that I've learned is you have to memorize the roster in advance. As the play-by-play guy, if you know the roster of your team and you know the numbers of all the guys in the other team, then it becomes pretty easy. And I learned that from Doc Emmerich and just basically researching some of the things that he said. And he would say that he would take index cards and he would hide them around his house or his hotel room, and he'd write 19, and then he'd go to the cabinet for the cereal, and it would say 19. You have to think, okay, who's 19 on each team and things like that. And that's the number one thing I think is to really have the numbers in advance that I found. But just getting to know a little bit about MLS culture and what it is and how different teams approach things and stuff like that. And I also think just patience. I think that's been the other thing. I remember when I was in minor league baseball, I think at one point I kind of said, I wish I could just go back and just start again from the first time when I was out in summer ball and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I kind of got that chance with soccer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to grow with this, and I might make a mistake here or there, but I'm just going to grow with it and learn from it. And that's been something that's cool about City is they really are growth mindset, and they have this idea of bringing the community to get together and working, both understanding the history of soccer in St. Louis, but also understanding, you know what, this is kind of a new thing for this area, and people aren't necessarily going to be able to go through and name every World Cup winner, or, sort of have that idea as maybe European people do about soccer and football and stuff, but they want to grow and they want to help the community learn. So that's been an approach that's it's been great for me.
Now, obviously two different sports, and baseball being kind of a much slower sport,
Mhm.
did that take some adjusting to get used to with the nonstop action with soccer versus baseball?
For sure, yeah, and I I mentioned earlier I did dog racing, so I really drew on stuff like that. I was compared to the dogs. I was like, all right, these MLS guys are actually kind of slow. And,
Yeah, trying to keep up with the Greyhounds is probably pretty tough.
it was, yeah, it was. And I had some background in hockey. I did the St. Louis Junior Blues for 3 years, and I've been involved with Lindenwood hockey and some of the tournaments that come through here, the NA3HL National Championships and the ACHA National Championships and stuff. And so, yeah, it was a good reminder that you have to draw on a lot. Now I'm involved with Baseball United out in Dubai, which is a startup baseball league, and I had a chance to go out there for 6 weeks over the winter and kind of get reaccustomed and familiarized with the game of baseball and stuff like that. And it has its own joy and its own rhythm. And you do kind of miss that, of being able to sit there and just kind of talk about whatever happens, and then the ball gets in play and you say, okay, here's the moment I jump back in and really do the play-by-play. And it's just about that for me. It's just about enjoying the rhythms and the opportunities as they come along. And I didn't think I would be doing soccer, but I don't think that even 10, 15 years ago, those opportunities were necessarily there. It's been such a growing sport. And I do think it's the sport of the future. I think that more and more people are embracing it. But I've always taken that mentality of, if you are good and you are somebody who is passionate about what you do, then you can go out to a little league game and make it sound like a big professional game. And you can go to any sport and apply what you know and put your passion on the tape. And so that's been the biggest thing. I remember when I was in Clarksdale and was doing basketball down there and talking to one of the coaches, basketball coach Michael Stringer, and he said, when you speak from the heart, it always comes out right. And I think that's always been my guiding principle. And as long as that feels like something I can put my heart into, then I know I'll be fine.
Now, I'm kind of embarrassed to say I don't know this, but what is the difference exactly between a play-by-play commentator and a color commentator?
Yeah, the line gets blurred.
Right, 'cause I'm always trying to
yeah.
I guess I kind of get it, but not really. So I was just figured I might as well ask you. You're a professional.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So I get it. Yeah. And I think a lot of it depends on whether you're on radio or play-by-play. Because if you're on radio, even with something like baseball, then it's basically saying every pitch and saying, hey, it's a ball downstairs, 1-0, 2-0. Here's the score. Bottom of the second, guy on second, stuff like that. When you're on TV as a play-by-play guy, because a lot of times, whether it's soccer or baseball or hockey, a lot of times maybe something's not necessarily happening that's all that relevant. You can just let the pictures take it a little bit. So that's something that's really interesting, because we're on the radio. We're on 98.1 KYKY FM, and we're also on Apple TV for the home games. So there's a little bit of a balance with the home games. He's like, people are also watching on TV, but they might be in the car and saying, oh my gosh, what's the score? And things like that. So there's a little bit of a balance. I'll just put it like this. I try to say what happens and who did it, and then I let Dale explain why they did it. Why is this guy?
You're the who and what, and he's the why.
Yeah, and it takes a heck of a lot of pressure off, to be honest with you. And there's something that's cool about doing it with different people. When I was in Dubai, I had a chance to call some games with Albert Pujols, actually. And I think
cool.
I think it was his first time ever doing like a live broadcast as a color commentator. It's just like, okay, you're the guy that's judging. Hey, that guy umpire got the call wrong, or he got it right. I'm not going to sit here and say, gee, Alfred, I'm not sure about your judgment around the zone. Hey, you got that. Trust me. It's all you. And I remember there was a play late in one of the games. This was about a year ago over there, and it was actually Robinson Cano up at the plane. There was a borderline on the outside corner. And honestly, it was a strike. I thought strike. They don't have the rectangle or, the K zone on the broadcast. I thought strike, and I just remember him looking at it for about 3 seconds, like, that looked a little bit outside to me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. You're right. He said, yes, sir. You got that one.
Yes, the sky is purple. 100%.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yes, Mr. Pujols.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just cool the bonds you can make because you're kind of out there together and you have to support each other and you have to be there for each other. And you don't want to step on anybody. You've also got to play your role, and it's just a balance. And that's some of the fun of it is getting to know somebody and what do they want, how do they approach it, and things like that. And that's just a cool part of it.
Well, a couple questions on that and how long you've been doing this. Is there an interview that you've done that just stands out, like hands down, and why? And then 2, is there a game that you remember calling that just stands out and why?
Yeah, honestly, it's connected. I'd say the same thing for the same experience for both questions. It was 2016. I was with an independent team in Texas, the Texas Airhogs, and it was actually my first full season. It was 100 games, and we had a preseason game. There's nobody in the stadium. There's no other broadcast. It's just an audio-only broadcast. And I remember I was looking at the little software program that we had, and I was just like, oh, there's 46 people listening. Which, trust me, on a lot of nights, I would have killed for 46 people. But at the time, I was like, oh, only 46 people. Oh, that's not that many people, And there was a way that people could make usernames so you could see kind of who was listening. And there was one username was P. Callahan. So that was the family I knew of the starting pitcher. And he was supposed to go 2. There's a guy named Derek Callahan. He was supposed to go 2 innings. And he's a lefty. He pitched in the Yankees organization. He's very good through 92, 93. And 2 outs, 2 strikes, second inning. Throws a fastball, and the guy hits a laser up the middle, and it hits him in the face right above the eye. There's nobody in the stadium, probably 3 people in the entire stadium. It sounded the same coming off the bat as it did going into his face.
As a pitcher, that was the scariest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was horrifying, and he went down, he blacked out, and fell forward onto the turf. They came streaming out of the dugout. We were doing the radio broadcast. We were the only broadcast out there. And it just immediately hits me. I'm like, wow, this could be the end of their son's life. Whoever's listening, he was from the Seattle area, so a couple of 1,000 miles away. And I just tried to say what I saw. And they're helping him, and they're out, and the athletic trainers are out, and the coaches are out. And he was down for about 25 minutes, as I recall. We didn't take really any breaks. He took about 20 seconds where I said, I got to run out and ask somebody, do they have any updates? And we kind of paused for a second, but I just tried to stay on for him, and he was okay, thank God. And he got up onto his feet after about 25 minutes or so, and he walked off the field under his own power. And I just remember saying on the radio, he's walking off. They're not carrying him. He's not leaning on anyone. It's okay. He's under his own power. I think he's going to be okay. And he had this huge purple welt, on his face. And he went back to Seattle, and he had 2 surgeries. He had a plate put in his head. We were one of the worst teams. We were basically last, in the league, and it got into late July, and there's maybe 30, 40 games left in the season. And it was kind of like, well, they're out of it. And he came back. He got on a bus in Dallas, and we actually came back to Missouri for a game against the Joplin Blasters. And he was going to pitch that night out of the bullpen. So I got him on the pregame show, and he just said, my mom really appreciated the announcing that night. She was listening that night. She really appreciated it. And it was really powerful because I thought, I was a lifeline for them just to understand what was happening for a second. And he came out of the bullpen that night, and he set down 10 in a row, and he struck out 5.
Wow.
And it was probably the most inspiring thing I've seen still. This was 10 years ago, still on a sports field, to see someone have that level of determination and just wanting to do it for himself and for teammates And, it was after that season as I reflected on it that I just said, I don't want to ever think again about the number of people that are listening, because it's not about how many people are listening or watching. It's about the impact you can have on one person. And that became kind of a motto for me, and something that I set my watch to a little bit professionally. And, I had some twists and turns in my own career. And, as I always, not always, but sometimes tell the players, hey, I've got the hard job, the air conditioning might go out in the broadcast booth. It's tough sometimes, but no, I mean, it can be a hard industry, and it can be something that's frustrating. I would always kind of go back to that and say, yeah, it's not really taking 108 mile per hour line drive off the face and battling back as this guy did. And it set things up for me. It set precedent for me and really kept me going in the game. So that's the game and the interview I remember most.
Wow. That's
That's
incredible
great
story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome. Now, how? I mean, you got to be. I mean, to be on for a whole game, it's got to take a lot out of you, huh? Like, is it?
Oh, they got free coffee, so it's
so
easier
you're just
than
down the coffee. Yeah,
that's part of it. Yeah, it's kind of physically taxing. I run, I jog. Probably jogging is a better descriptor than running at times, but yeah, I try to keep the wind up like that. And that's part of the appeal, though, as well, is you feel like, you kind of went through something, you got wrung out a little bit. And I think for something that's high energy, especially with the way that City has played for most of the time that I've been involved, you have to keep up with the guys and its end-to-end action. And that's been something that I've grown a lot with soccer, and I've loved a lot about doing it. People think, oh, soccer is a 1-0 game or is a nothing game. Oh, there wasn't a lot of action. There's actually a ton of action when you have to pay attention to every play. You're like, oh, I just looked down for a second on my sheet. There was a turnover or somebody,
the ball's all the way down there now.
Yeah. How did that happen? Hey guys, but it takes something to do it, and it takes a commitment to do it. But that's the appeal of it, as well, as you feel like you have to put some real effort into something and grab onto something and hold on to it and cherish the moments with it. I think, going back to that experience in Clarksville, Mississippi, you kind of, when a team loses a lot of games, you have to learn to relish, just like, oh man, we had a slam dunk that was awesome. The game might have lost the game, but it was really cool to see that kind of thing, and latching onto the player stories and the team stories and stuff like that. Yeah, there's something that's it changes you quite a bit, and I think it makes you appreciate things a little bit more and just more thankful for the opportunities. And when I look back on some of the opportunities that I've had, I'm like, wow, I'm really, really lucky to have done this stuff. And you have to take that attitude. You can't think about, I want this or I didn't get that. If you have that attitude of gratitude, then things multiply from there, and you look back and think, oh, I've got a book of stories here, that I can tell, whether they're other people's stories or my own. And that just is what makes your life rich.
Yeah. Now, is there one broadcaster or sports announcer that you looked up to or listened to kind of learn from? Or
yeah, I mean, it's got to be the guy that made my hair on the back of my neck stand up as a kid, and that's Ken Wilson.
Okay.
And I've been pretty open about, love the guy, and just thinking back on the Blues broadcast, primarily from the 90s and 2000s. I mean, he did Cardinals, and he did Seattle Mariners, he did baseball stuff, he did different sports, but yeah, those years were really the best years, I think, that were ever done. And I don't know, I was really just a kid when he left, so I wasn't even as familiar with, he kind of left the city. I don't know that he got the appreciation that he really deserved. And I think part of that is because of just, we have so many sports announcers in St. Louis. And say, oh, Bob Costas lived here forever, and he was sports announcer here with the St. Louis Spirits of St. Louis, and K-Mucks and everything, and Jack Buck and Joe Buck, and the list goes on and on and on. That, I think he kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. But yeah, I don't think anybody ever did it better in St. Louis. I just think everything, just smooth delivery, excitement, fun, just the way that he made you feel. And yeah, it's different when you're a kid and you just think, oh, this guy was just born this way, and he kind of just showed up one day and started to do it. And as I've gotten older and been able to, through the wonders of the internet, watch some stuff from the 80s when he was starting out and in the 90s, I was like, oh, he really improved as he went along, as everybody does. And he stayed with it. I think as of a couple of years ago, he was still announcing baseball down in Australia.
Really?
And he's, I believe in his late 70s now. So I don't know. I don't know if I would be doing that, in my late 70s, but I think he still has that, the want to do it and the love to do it. And yeah, I just think the memories he created, it's just everybody has somebody like that, that just stands out to them. And for whatever reason, he really stood out like that. But I think the reason's a good reason. I think he was an amazing, amazing announcer. And I've modeled a lot of my stuff after him. I've thought about him almost every day. I think that I've done it. And I think something about that and childhood and the way it brings you back to your own childhood. That's why people really announce sports. That's why you get into it. So shout out Ken. And,
you ever had a chance to meet him?
I've not. I wrote an email to, I think it was his brother was the president of the West Coast Baseball League back in the 2010s at one point. I just said, I'm sure you get this all the time, but Ken was my idol growing up and I loved Ken and, just ever a chance to work together. And he was nice about it. He wrote back and said, we don't have anything right now, but sort of stay in touch. And we kind of, circle each other. I had some other opportunities and it never happened, but, hey, if he's out there listening, it would be an absolute honor. It would be, I really do think he's the best. And I hope that he knows, and again, I don't know him personally, so I don't know really as much about this, but I hope that he knows that there's a ton of people in St. Louis who really do believe he was just incredible and just know that he was unbelievably appreciated.
It's awesome. Hopefully, and maybe this will get to him. Maybe we'll clip it up and tag him in social media and all that stuff.
Please do.
Yeah. Now, has doing live commentary affected how you watch sports off the clock?
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. I watch a lot of sports. Even sports I don't do much football and watch quite a bit of that. And you think about little things maybe that the announcer says or does, and maybe something happened or you didn't quite see this or you didn't quite see that. But, honestly, you always forget that, as soon as the game's over. I don't really keep notes or say, this or that about them. But, it's a little bit different now. It is. And I think going and doing Major League Sports, honestly, has kind of made my life a little bit different. Chance to work with MLB Network a little bit and ESPN and the stuff with St. Louis City. And I think when I first started out doing like summer college ball and stuff and doing community college athletics, you just felt like you're just out there for people who maybe are off the radar. I remember there was one year I was at a D2 school in Florida and we had the game and I had a few one-liners in the game that got picked up by CBS Sports, and just thinking, this is cool to kind of maybe get these guys an opportunity to be seen on these platforms that they're not going to be. Some of the people, they played against in high school are on CBS every week playing for Alabama or playing for Florida or whatever. And, it's kind of cool to get them that opportunity maybe in my own small way. But, it just kind of felt like just like community stuff. And, being back in St. Louis, it kind of reinvigorated that feeling for me because I felt like, I'm just here for family and friends and I'm here for the people around the city. So I was able to take that feeling and get some of that feeling back by coming back and doing St. Louis City. But there's times, we were talking about 46 people and trust me, I've been on broadcasts where I imagine there was probably about 0 people, and, there was a year I was with an independent baseball team and we were actually, we were bought by a Chinese steel conglomerate. And so it was actually the same team that guy, Derek Callahan was on. It was a couple years later and we were purchased by a corporation from China. And I remember I asked about a month into the season, I just said, are they listening out there in Beijing and Chengdu and Shanghai and different cities in China? And the translator just looked at me and said, no, it can't get through the government censors. And I started laughing because I was like, oh, there you go. And there was something that was just like fun about that though, because I was like, oh, they're not really listening, and I don't know that they understand what I'm saying anyway. It's not like we had a translation or subtitles or anything on the broadcast. And I later found out that there were a handful of people in the baseball community over there that would go on the VPNs and access our games. And I was like, okay, I'm out there for them. It's a real niche sport. It's very under the radar in China. Somebody said at one point there's 100,000 people from kindergarten to like adults who are involved in baseball. And I remember thinking, I was like, wow, 100,000 people, that's a good chunk of people over there. That's a nice, 100,000. I was like, oh, wait, there's 1.4 billion. Yeah, the country. I was like, okay, that's not quite as many as I thought.
Smaller sliver than I.
Yeah, it's not as many. But yeah, I just like being there for people who want to really support like the players and the athletes and the fans, the coaches and everything. Yeah, there's such a community feel, and that's really been important to me.
Is there a sport that you would want to get into more than another?
Wow, yeah. I mean, there's really anything. I had a few conversations actually with the folks from China at one point to become maybe the announcer for the Jiangsu Pegasus, Jiangsu Flying Horses.
Was that baseball?
It was baseball.
Okay.
And there was a guy from that team who ended up a couple years later playing in the major leagues, a guy named Dylan Thomas. And he actually just went over to China for their inaugural season of kind of a reformed and kind of a bigger deal type of league. And so, yeah, there's something that I always wondered what it would be like to go over there after they came to Texas. They had 2/3 of our roster. This is the 2018 season. 2/3 of our roster was players from mainland China. I thought, oh, what would it be like if we kind of put this in reverse? And I went over there. People from America went over there. So that was always something that sort of stood out to me, maybe as an opportunity. But yeah, I think that something I've talked a little bit about, some folks who are involved a little bit with Webster University. It's an adjunct professor over there, is a producer in this area. Shout out Michael Langston. And we were talking about, maybe I should start announcing chess. I think what I would do is I would provide the emotional side of chess. I need somebody that's like a brain. He can kind of break it down, but I'll be the guy throwing chairs.
He moved the bishop.
Yes! So yeah, I'd love to
Knight
do
to King
that.
4. No, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's kind of in the book. We have this unbelievably strong chess program. Webster University is like the best chess team in the world, and
Really?
yeah, they've
That's
won.
crazy.
How many championships have they won at this point? But they've won national championships, through these mini national championships through the years. And now St. Louis University and Mizzou, it's like an arms race. And all right, we got to respond now that Webster's the dominant force. It was 2 or 3 years ago, the Final Four of chess. 3 of the 4 teams were Webster, SLU, and Mizzou.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah, so
Wow.
That's crazy.
and I think it's the Chess Hall of Fame and the St. Louis Chess Club and stuff, and the opportunities through that kind of gets a lot of the players here, and definitely it's attractive, I'm sure, as far as recruiting goes. But yeah, we're the chess powerhouse. So I
I
feel
had
like that's
no
something I
idea.
can.
That's pretty
latch
cool.
onto.
I didn't even know that the Hall of Fame was here.
Yeah, it's where the Sub-Zero used to be, right there on the corner.
Central
of-
Sin, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across from like Drunken Fish and all that
Yep.
over there.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that I remember them putting that up in there, and I think they do a pop-up Christmas bar every once in a while.
They have that, and they have the little restaurant there
Yeah.
that's kind of a chess themed
Yeah.
diner. It's really cool to just go down there and just spend a little time. It's you learn a lot and learn a lot about what you don't know as well as far as chess goes.
Yeah, because they just had there's a big tournament that they had here last year or something like that. I believe it was that all these big names, all these grandmasters were coming in for and things like that.
Yeah, Magnus was here, I think, in late October.
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
really
what-
cool. He's the
yeah.
number one. He's like the best player in the last
History,
25
yeah.
years. Yeah.
Watch just the videos that like they post to him. Like he'll show up, and like his clock will be running, and he'll literally show up with like 2 minutes left and just come in against like the next greatest player in the world and just destroy them in 2
Right.
minutes.
That's insane. And with a name like Magnus Carlsen, I feel like you got to be doing something like
Yeah.
spectacular. That just sounds like a Yeah, like a super villain or something.
He has it for a while. I think they called him the bad boy of chess.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's fitting.
he wore jeans, I think
Yeah,
was the
you can't-
idea.
Oh, okay.
He's supposed to wear the suit.
You got to wear a suit. Is that the standard? I've
That's the
not
standard.
watched a lot of chess in my day.
I've become more aware of like the controversies of chess through writing this book and researching and just the different things through the years. There was at one point there was a little bit of a people were hiding things in a sensitive area.
I've heard about
getting
that,
the
yeah.
communications.
With like
through,
I've
yeah,
heard
I'm not
about
going to
that.
exactly say
Really?
how they were doing
Yeah.
it. You can look this up.
Yeah,
later
but
on,
they
yeah.
think that they've got some sort of like sensor like hidden, and
Huh.
like you can feel it like because you got someone like giving you instructions or something.
They're sort of sending pulses.
Pulses,
Gotcha.
yeah.
It's how do you yeah. Move this here, move that there.
Right, you got to know like Morse
Oh,
code
man.
on top of
Yeah.
having something in your ass.
Who knew? Who knew that there was so much controversy with chess?
Yeah.
I mean, if anything's taken serious, I mean, something that's like to that level of seriousness, I'm
Well,
not surprised. People try to
the
cheat in
one-
every sport.
Yeah.
So here, the guy that I helped buy told me one of the biggest things that they have to worry about is they got to tell these guys to shower because they'll use like they'll go in smelling as like
As a tactic?
Advantage, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Throws the other guy off.
oh yeah.
This guy stinks. I got to
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
He's like you will not you don't comprehend like how bad it smells in one of those tournaments is what he was telling me.
Wow. That's crazy. I
Whatever
would've
it
never
takes,
thought.
baby. Whatever
Yeah,
it takes.
you're all in there. You know, everybody's in a suit, and they just like
Straight
show
up.
up. Like,
Straight up, crank the heat up in here.
I think
Let's
every
get
time I've
this
ever
going.
put a suit on, I usually shower like right before it.
Oh, for
You know?
sure.
Like I'm trying to look my
Absolutely.
best.
Yeah.
They're just.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
wow, that's
any,
wild.
any advantage, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
Whatever it takes.
That's wild. I had no
Oh,
idea.
yeah. But and then the other one that we have here that you mentioned is the Bowling Hall of Fame,
Mm.
and
I didn't know we had that either.
yeah. Well, actually, one of my buddies that I grew up playing hockey with, his dad's in it.
Really?
Yeah,
Right. Who's his dad? Who's
Chris Young.
Chris Young? Okay.
Yeah, his CJ was who I grew up playing hockey with
Mhm.
at Oakville and all that. So
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I remember going down there a few times as a kid and seeing the Cardinals Hall of Fame and the Bowling Hall of Fame was attached to it, and it was huge. It's like 50,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And they had the bowling alley and chance to throw a few gutter balls in the bowling alley while we were there. So yeah, that was really cool. And I think the way that kids know it now, St. Louis bowling is from the "Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
I am."
I
Whoever.
am.
They don't know he's from St. Louis.
No, yeah.
His dad
Good
was
old
the
people.
pride of the Budweiser's team. He was born here in St. Louis, so shows the passion that we have for
Yeah.
something like that. When you can,
that guy is a
Who do you think
character.
you are? I am. Come on.
That's one of the best videos
Yeah.
ever.
A character, man.
That's awesome.
Bad boy of bowling.
The bad boy of bowling.
He is.
You got to be a bad boy of every sport, it seems. You know?
As he says, I love me or hate me, you watched.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. We did.
We did.
100%. We just wanted to see what kind of crazy shit was going to come out of your mouth
Yep.
next.
Right.
How fired up you get after a strike. Oh my gosh. It's nuts.
And the other one in the book that's near and dear to my heart and is really something that's so important to us is corkball. And we
Really?
invented it. Yeah, we invented the game really in the 20s and 30s. A little bit before that with some soldiers in World War I who were from St. Louis kind of started to popularize it. It's actually the St. Louis Browns in the 1890s who played
Really?
the first corkball game. I didn't know
Huh.
this. They were in a bar, and the guy that ran the bar was also the owner of the St. Louis Browns, Chris Vanderah. And they were kind of hanging out there, having a great season. Everybody always thinks the Browns are terrible, but they were actually top 3 in the league that year. They're like, let's take a little broomstick handle and a cork with this barrel. I guess this is the days when you actually had like barrels of alcohol, at bars, and let's go outside and hit it around. And so they started playing literally with a cork and a broomstick handle. And we became the center of the game. We became the, Markwart, Rawlings. They started making the little
Yeah.
cork ball
balls,
and
yeah.
the standardized, the thin bat. And, I had a chance when I was a kid, my grandfather had a cork ball and a little bat, and me and my brother would go out and play with it. And so, yeah, learning a lot about that and learning about how the restaurants and the bars used to have cages attached to them so they could hit the ball and it wouldn't fly away. One thing I thought was really fascinating is a picture of a battleship in there, the USS Bunker Hill, which was where they actually invented that idea. So they had people who wanted to play corkball. They were sailors in World War II, and they're like, if you hit the corkball, it's just going to fly off the ship. So they put a cage on the battleship, basically like an aircraft carrier kind of thing. And yeah, they kept the ball on the ship. Yeah. With the cages, and the restaurants are like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Let's put some of those on there. And yeah, it became such a big thing, and just knew so many folks. We played corkball as a kid, and our dads and stuff were part of corkball clubs and stuff like that. So getting a chance to look at the different big four corkball clubs, and Gateway Corkball Club is the oldest one, and just how many people to this day really not just play it like recreationally, but they keep stats and they have sabermetrics and all this stuff for corkball. I'm like, all right, this is fascinating.
Yeah, my friends are. I got like 4 or 5 buddies, and they're in the Jefferson Barracks League, and they are hardcore.
Yeah, I remember getting recruited at
they wanted
the wiffle ball tournament.
They saw how he could throw, and they're like, "Hey, you should come play corkball for us."
Yeah. I'm like, oh, there goes my elbow.
Yeah, dude, they take it so serious, man. I mean, it looks fun. I mean, I just
there's people up here at the club that play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot. Was it?
I've never played.
I forgot who it was that was asking me to play on their team, and I'm like, no.
I just play wiffle ball once a year. Yeah, that's the extent of my ball and bat sports.
Filling for a softball team every once in a while, but yeah, no, my arm, my elbow will explode if I try it. I thought it was going to explode after wiffle ball last year.
Oh wow!
One of my buddies, he's been doing this for probably 6 or 7 years now, maybe more than that. But every summer he puts this big wiffle ball tournament on. He's got big backyard. He sets up two fields. He has like. They made backdrops. They have like legit foul poles, and like it's like they make it legit. It's fun. And
I played last year for the first time, and what made it even more fun was it was raining. It was cold, but it was raining. So I mean, it was kind of miserable, but it was still a ton of fun. We had a blast.
Oh yeah, his yard every year is just destroyed afterwards. It's so fun, man, because we show up that morning, we do 3-man teams, you draft right there, they've got a couple kegs of beer, and it's just a all-day event, just a blast. I look forward to that day every year. We just have so much fun.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, the Don Young Fields and the Jefferson Barracks and the World Series every year. And it's just another thing I just hope kids will take out of this. We've invented a lot as well, and we've added a lot to some of these games, or invented games that just maybe slip under the radar, but they've been big businesses and they've provided a lot of memories for people. So I hope people will take pride, kids will take pride in knowing that they started right here in St. Louis.
Yeah. I'm sure you dove into like individual superstars from the area. Was there one particular athlete that you dove into in the book that you're like, that you weren't really thinking about, but then after you researched, you're like, wow, I'm really impressed?
Yeah. One person who I didn't know was really involved with St. Louis was Sonny Liston.
Oh, yeah.
And it was maybe because I think we remember him as having gotten knocked out by Muhammad Ali twice and losing a couple of fights, and just, that was kind of his story. And I didn't realize how much he was involved in the city. He was born, I believe, in Arkansas and moved here as a teenager and spent some time in a prison basically, and learned to box and became part of a team in St. Louis that was like a Gold Gloves team that in the early 50s did like a big event against like the European champions. And it was like Europe versus the United States, and Sonny Liston was part of it. And he became, the heavyweight champion of the world, and unfortunately passed away far too soon. I think he was only about 38 years old when he died, and had a little bit of a tragic ending, honestly. But yeah, just learning about that and not knowing really that he was from St. Louis. It was another person who was like, wow, it always kind of comes back to St. Louis. Arthur Ashe would be another one. I did know he, trained at the Armory, is big name in tennis, and was here as a teenager, learning so much about tennis from the really vibrant scene. That would be another one that I thought quite a bit about. Then on the professional wrestling side, I just have not watched as much professional wrestling, and I have not kind of explored that world as much. And I was like, hold on, wait a second. They're like the biggest names ever have come through here. And just a little bit before my time was Wrestling in the Chase.
Mm-hmm. It still goes on.
Still does, yeah. And they still do events down there. Just learning that, guys like Ric Flair were down there, becoming Ric Flair right here in St. Louis. And you have the Orton family and what they've brought to the sport of wrestling, obviously living here in and being here. I mean, it's pretty incredible the number of people. And I hope I did it justice. I hope I did justice to these things that I didn't know as much about. But yeah, it just shows, wow, everybody seems to, as we were talking about before the broadcast, before the show here. I mean, it's people who come here, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna stay here. You know, Wayne Gretzky has a house here, and just these different people who are like, oh yeah, you were here for kind of like a half minute. It's like, oh, yeah, I really like this town and want to stay around. I like this city, and yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, you've seen it a lot with the Blues alumni. I mean, we've had a few on the show: Reed Lowe, Tony Twist. The production company out here, Tony Twist's fiance owns and runs. Reed's a member here, but they all have got their barbecue sauces over there, bare knuckle barbecue. But all those guys are here: Cam Jansen, Jim Campbell, Tony Twist, Reed Lowe. All those guys and Chris Pronger, as you mentioned, he's still here.
Yeah.
But because we asked them, and they're just like, the alumni group does such a good job, and the people here have treated us so well that it's hard for us to leave.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I know Reed, St. Louis Junior Blues.
Yeah.
2022, he was an assistant coach, and we had many entertaining conversations together. It was cool to see him giving back like that and just being, so generous with his time to, be on the bench for these guys and bring a passion. I mean, I remember watching a game. It was final 10 seconds of the game, and I was like, now it's fighting time, just watching. Now, Reed was not fighting, but Reed was on the bench, very passionately, excoriating the referees and the other team. So it was like, all right, this guy's not just here showing up, but he's got his heart and soul into this, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I run into, Keith Kachuk up at Obie Clark's frequently.
Sure.
I play hockey on Wednesday nights, and he's up there, and who else? I mean, Jamal Mayers. I mean, it's just. I think Tyson Nash is still here. I mean, it's really cool that they stayed.
Yeah.
And being the greatest one of all time, Wayne Gretzky. I mean, shoot, I think him and Jim Campbell own the Geyer Inn over there, that little bar right across. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They and you can go in there, and every once in a while you'll when Gretzky's in town, you'll see him sitting there at the bar because I again play hockey over there at Kirkwood, and after games we would just shoot on over to the Geyer Inn. And if you've never been there, it's just a tiny house. Like you have how it's right on Geyer Road, and it's all homes, and there's just a little tiny house right between these two really nice big houses, and it's just a hole in the wall.
I've driven by it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly. I've driven by it a million times.
Yeah, and so him and that great Wayne Gretzky and
he owns that.
Jim Campbell own that. Yeah,
I had no idea. I've driven by that on Geyer 100 times, and I had no idea. I didn't know that was what that was. Wow, crazy.
So,
well, Joey, this has been awesome, man. I've really
enjoyed
coming to hang out with us and tell us your story and talk about the book and everything. And this was great. We've really enjoyed this. But we do end the show the same way every time. So before we get you out of here, we got one last question.
Play a little game. We call it the Tombstone game.
All right.
Here lies Joey. What's it say on your tombstone?
Wow. Hopefully not having to make a decision too quick.
Right.
Thanks for the laughter most of all. That's what I would say. Thanks for the laughter most of all. Just thank you for being part of something with me and times that you enjoy. And something you learn working in sports is you do kind of start to forget some of the results, and you also forget some of the friction or the times that things didn't go the way you wanted to, and you just remember the good times. And yeah, I think that would be it. Thanks for the laughter most of all. And that would be what I would put. If not that, then just thanks to the family and the friends. Just thank you for all the people who have made it special. And growing up in St. Louis, that's really the biggest thing. It's just what is the important stuff. And being here with family and friends has made all the difference for me. So yeah, thank you. And that'd be what it's on my tombstone.
That's awesome. Perfect,
thanks again, man. And
we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, and thanks for the book. I can't wait to dive into this with the kids. And
absolutely,
and how do we get the book?
Take a look. Yeah, if you follow me on social media, I'm at Joey_Zana on social media, and I've got a link up right now. I'll actually come and basically hand deliver the book to you. So I'm pretty upfront about that. I'll show up wherever you want me to. You can also find it at readypress.com. And get it that way. It's STL Sports for Kids, St. Louis Sports for Kids, Forever Lauren, the 314. And yeah, thanks to everybody who made it possible.
Awesome.
Well, thanks to everybody at home that watched or listened to this episode. Go check out Joey's book. And if you haven't clicked that subscribe button for us yet, please do so. That would help us out a ton. Comment what you thought below. Share this episode with a friend, and we will see you next time.